Consider the graph of the polar function r equals f of theta, where f of theta equals 1 plus 2 sine theta. In the polar coordinate system, for theta is greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 2 pi. Which of the following statements is true about the distance between the point with polar coordinates f theta, theta, and the origin? So we need to find out which one of these statements is true. So let's go through each of them. So A says the distance for theta is less than or equal to pi by 2 and greater than or equal to 0 is increasing because f of theta is positive and increasing on the interval. So we can calculate that. So let's find the value of f of 0, where theta equals 0. And if we plug that into the equation, we have 1 plus sine of 0. And we know that sine of 0 is just equal to 0. So we're just left with 1. So that means f of 0 is 1. And then if we plug in pi by 2, which is the other end of the interval, we'll have 1 plus sine of pi by 2. And we know sine of pi by 2 from the unit circle is 1, and 1 plus 1 is just equal to 2. So that means f of pi by 2 is 2, and it started at 1, at 0. So that means f of theta is positive. These are both positive, and increasing on the interval. So we went from 1 to 2, so that is increasing. So this seems all correct, but let's just make sure that the other answers are wrong. B says the distance between these two values of theta is increasing, and because f of theta is negative, and increasing on the interval. So let's see if that's correct. So let's first plug in f of 3 pi by 2. So we'll have 1 plus 2 sine of 3 pi by 2. So 3 pi by 2 on the unit circle. So that's 3 pi by 2. So 1 pi by 2, 2 pi by 2, or pi, and then 3 pi by 2. So that means sine of 3 pi by 2 is equal to negative 1. This will be 1 minus 1. It gives us 0. For f of 3 pi by 2. And then the other end of the range interval is 11 pi by 2. So f of 11 pi by 2, or 11 pi by 6. So 1 plus 2 sine 11 pi by 6. So 11 pi by 6 is 1 pi by 6 away from pi equals 0. So we know that the sine of 11 pi by 6 is going to be negative because it's in the bottom two quadrants. And we know that sine of pi by 6 is just equal to 1/2. So if we're pi by 6 away from pi equals 0 on the x-axis here, then that means sine of pi by 6, 11 pi by 6, is just equal to negative 1/2. And then 2 times negative 1/2 is just equal to 1. So we'll just have 1 minus 1 is equal to 0. Oh, and it seems made a mistake here. Sine of 3 pi by 2 is negative 1. And then negative 1 times 2 is just equal to negative 2. So 1 minus 2 is just equal to negative 1. So we went from negative 1 at 3 pi by 2 to 0 at 11 pi by 6. So we are increasing on this interval, but f of theta is not always negative, because at 11 pi by 6, f of theta is 0, which is neither negative or positive. So we can rule out answer choice B. Now let's look at answer choice C. Let's plug in 0 for f of theta. And we know from earlier that f of 0 is just equal to 1. Because, well, there should be a 2 here, but it didn't matter because sine of 0 is just 0. So there's just a f of 0 is 1. And then pi by 2. Well, we know from A that f of pi by 2, that's just equal to 2. Oh, sorry, we need a 2 out front. So sine of pi by 2, that's equal to 1 and then 2, so this should actually just be 3, but that doesn't change the answers. 3. So this is positive and increasing. But C says that because f is positive, which is true, and decreasing, but this actually increased on this interval. We can rule out C. Okay, let's make some space for answer choice D. Answer choice D gives us the same range as answer choice B, but it says f of theta is negative and decreasing on the interval. We know that on this interval, we go from 3 pi by 2 to 11 pi by 6, and we're going from -1 to 0. This is actually increasing, and 0 is not negative, so we can rule out D as well. So A has to be the correct answer.